Picture this, a country that built the greatest civilization on Earth, a nation that constructed 138 pyramids without a single machine, that mapped the stars before telescopes existed, that embalmed bodies so perfectly that 3,000-year-old faces still stare back at us today. That same country, Egypt, once had one of the most advanced railway systems in all of Africa, a network stretching thousands of kilometers, trains that connected the Nile Delta to the scorching deserts of Upper Egypt. And yet, today, Egypt's railway system is ranked among the most dangerous in the entire world. Crashes, derailments, deaths, scandals, fires. In 2021, 2 trains collided head-on near Sohag, killing 32 people. In 2002, a passenger train caught fire, trapping people inside. 373 souls lost. One of the deadliest rail disasters in history. How does a civilization that built the pyramids, one of the 7 wonders of the world, end up with trains that are literally catching fire? And here's the twist. Egypt is now planning a maglev, a magnetic levitation train, the most futuristic, fastest, most expensive technology on the planet. So what happened in between? What went so catastrophically wrong? And can the future actually fix it? Buckle in, because this story is wilder than you think. In this video, we're going to trace Egypt's railway journey across nearly 200 years. From the very first steam locomotive that rolled across African soil, through decades of neglect, corruption, and catastrophe, all the way to a jaw-dropping billion-dollar plan to build a futuristic maglev network connecting Cairo to the Red Sea. We'll uncover why one of Africa's oldest railways became one of its most dangerous. We'll look at the political decisions, the colonial history, and the systemic failures that led to hundreds of preventable deaths. And we'll ask the question that nobody in Egypt's government wants to answer. Is the maglev a genuine vision for the future, or is it a distraction from a broken present? There are 5 reasons Egypt's railways collapsed the way they did. And the 5th one? It changes everything you think you know about this story. Let's go back, way back. The year is 1851. Egypt is not yet the independent republic we know today. It's a semi-autonomous province of the Ottoman Empire, ruled by a man named Abbas Dreyfus. Abbas was complicated. He was reclusive, suspicious of Europeans, deeply traditional, but even he could not ignore what was happening in the world around him. Steam power was reshaping civilizations, railways were connecting continents, and Britain, the most powerful empire on earth, was watching Egypt very closely. Egypt was not just a country, it was a gateway, a crossroads. Whoever controlled the route from the Mediterranean to the Red Sea controlled global trade. And a railway through Egypt would do exactly that. It would connect Europe to India faster than any ship sailing around Africa. The British understood this perfectly. Enter Robert Stephenson. Yes, the son of George Stephenson, the man who invented the first passenger steam locomotive. Robert came to Egypt with a proposal. Let us build you a railway, from Alexandria on the Mediterranean coast all the way to Cairo. Abbas agreed. Construction began in 1851, and on July 12, 1854, the Alexandria-Cairo line opened to the public. This was not just Egypt's first railway. This was the first railway in all of Africa, and the 4th railway in the entire Middle East. Imagine what that meant. In a world where most people never traveled more than 30 kilometers from where they were born, suddenly you could travel 200 kilometers in a matter of hours. Cotton merchants, soldiers, pilgrims, government officials, all of them flooding onto these new iron roads. Egypt, for a brief moment, was a pioneer. But here's what Abbas never fully grasped, and what would haunt Egypt for the next 170 years. This railway was not built for Egypt, it was built for Britain. Let's fast forward. Egypt's railway network grows rapidly through the late 1800s. By the time the British formally occupy Egypt in 1882, the network stretches thousands of kilometers. Trains carry cotton, Egypt's most valuable export, from the Nile Delta to Alexandria's ports, where British ships are waiting. The railways were efficient, they were profitable, but they were designed entirely around colonial economics, not the needs of ordinary Egyptians. Rural villages? Disconnected. Upper Egypt, the poorer, more agricultural south? Underfunded. The network was dense in the delta where the cotton was and sparse everywhere else. This lopsided geography would become a permanent scar. Now jump to 1952. Egypt's military overthrows King Farouk. The Free Officers Movement takes power, eventually led by Gamal Abdel Nasser. Egypt is finally truly independent. Nasser is a nationalist with massive ambitions. He nationalizes the Suez Canal in 1956, builds the Aswan High Dam, and modernizes much of Egypt's infrastructure. But the railways? They're complicated. The Egyptian National Railways, ENR, is established as a state-owned enterprise, and like so many state-owned enterprises in post-colonial nations, it becomes something it was never supposed to be. A jobs machine, a political tool, a bureaucratic empire. Instead of hiring engineers based on merit, positions were handed out as political favors. Instead of reinvesting profits into maintenance, money was siphoned off. Instead of upgrading aging British-era infrastructure, the ENR simply kept running the old stuff, year after year, decade after decade. And here's the terrifying reality. Deferred maintenance on a railway isn't like deferred maintenance on a building. You can let a building get run down and it just looks ugly. On a railway, deferred maintenance kills people. But the full horror of that truth hadn't yet revealed itself. Not yet. In the 1970s and 80s, Egypt is growing fast, population booming, Cairo expanding in every direction. More and more people dependent on the railway. But the trains, old, overcrowded, poorly maintained, are struggling. Delays become common, accidents become more frequent, and the warnings are there for anyone willing to look. Nobody is looking. The 1990s arrive, and Egypt's railway system is in quiet crisis. But it's a crisis that the government is deeply motivated to hide. Here's the uncomfortable truth about state railway systems. They are political assets. The price of a train ticket is kept artificially low, often far below the actual cost. Because cheap train fares are a form of social subsidy. Raise ticket prices, and you trigger public anger. Lose elections, cause unrest. So the ENR is perpetually underfunded. Ticket revenues don't cover operating costs. Government subsidies fill the gap, but never quite enough for real capital investment. The result? A system that is technically functional but structurally rotting. The signaling systems are outdated. Many sections of tracks still use manual block signaling, a method invented in the 1860s. Drivers communicate by telephone. Train schedules are maintained on paper. It's not the 1990s on Egypt's railways. It's still, in many ways, the 1950s. Then 2002 arrives, and everything changes. February 20th, 2002. Train 832 departs Cairo, heading south to Luxor. It's carrying hundreds of passengers, families, workers, students. Somewhere between Abu Kurkas and Al Ayat, a fire breaks out. The exact cause is disputed. An overloaded electrical system, a gas canister, a cigarette. What is not disputed is what happens next. The train is moving at high speed. The fire spreads rapidly through the wooden-framed carriages. And the doors are locked. People cannot get out. They are trapped inside burning compartments on a train traveling at full speed through the Egyptian desert at night. 373 people die. Hundreds more are injured. It is one of the worst rail disasters in world history, and it happens not because of a mechanical failure, not because of a natural disaster, but because of systematic neglect, old trains, faulty systems, locked doors, no sprinklers, no emergency protocols. Egypt is in shock. The government promises reforms. Investigations are launched. Officials are blamed. And then, slowly, the story fades. The reforms are partial. The investment is inadequate. The same system keeps running. But the real twist in this story, the one that makes everything even darker, is still coming. Here is the truth that nobody in the Egyptian government wanted to admit. The 2002 disaster did not cause Egypt's railway crisis. It revealed it. The real problem wasn't the fire. The real problem was institutional, and it had a name: ENR overstaffing. At its peak, the Egyptian National Railways employed over 90,000 workers. For context, Deutsche Bahn, Germany's railway system, one of the largest in Europe, employs around 330,000 people, but manages 33,000 kilometers of track. ENR manages roughly 5,000 kilometers, and at its peak employed nearly a third of that number. What were all these people doing? In many cases, not much. Ghost employees on payroll, redundant positions, work that didn't exist. The railway system had become a welfare mechanism dressed up as a transport provider. And because wages were eating the budget, there was nothing left for infrastructure. Nothing for new trains, nothing for modern signaling, nothing for maintenance. In 2006, 4 years after the deadliest disaster, another major crash near Alexandria kills 58 people. In 2009, another crash. In 2013, yet another. Each time, the same pattern. Government shock, promises of reform, slow fade. But in 2011, something seismic happens. The Arab Spring. Hosni Mubarak, who had ruled Egypt for 30 years, is overthrown. A new era begins. And with it comes a new kind of politics and a new relationship with infrastructure. By 2013, General Abdel Fattah el-Sisi takes power, and Sisi is above everything else a builder. He announces mega projects at a scale that stuns economists: a new administrative capital, a new Suez Canal expansion, new highways, new airports, and new trains. For the railways, Sisi orders billions in new rolling stock, new Russian-made passenger cars, new high-speed infrastructure agreements, partnerships with Chinese companies, European signaling systems. On paper, it looks like the revolution Egypt's railways desperately needed. But here's what almost nobody reports. You can buy the most modern trains in the world. If the tracks they run on are a century old, if the signaling systems are still manual, if the workers driving them haven't been properly trained, the disasters continue. March 26, 2021. Two trains collide near Tata in Sohag Governorate. 32 killed, 165 injured. The cause? Human error. A driver uses his phone. An emergency brake is released. Two trains on the same track. New trains. Same story, different victims. But now we arrive at the most audacious chapter of this entire story. 2021. The same year as the Sohag crash, Egypt announces a plan that makes global headlines. A maglev train. Not just any maglev. A 660-kilometer maglev network connecting the new administrative capital east of Cairo all the way to the Red Sea coast at Ain Sokhna. Capable of speeds up to 600 kilometers per hour. A project estimated to cost between 45 and 60 billion US dollars. Let that number sit for a second. 45 to 60 billion dollars. Egypt's entire annual GDP is around $400 billion. They are proposing to spend more than 10% of their GDP on a single train line. The company behind the proposal? Hyperloop TT, a California-based startup that has yet to complete a single operational Hyperloop or maglev line anywhere on Earth. Now, to be fair, maglev technology itself is real and proven. Japan's SC Maglev has been in development for decades. China has operational maglev lines. Germany pioneered the Transrapid system. Maglev is not science fiction. But here's the contradiction that takes your breath away. Egypt cannot maintain a conventional train's braking system. Egypt cannot prevent drivers from using their phones on duty. Egypt cannot afford to replace 80-year-old signaling infrastructure. And it wants to build a 600-kilometer maglev system. Critics inside Egypt, economists, engineers, urban planners, are stunned. The mathematics don't work. The operational capacity doesn't exist. The regulatory framework isn't there. The institutional knowledge isn't there. But the critics are not the point. The maglev announcement is not really about transportation. It is about image. It is about projecting modernity. It is about telling the world, and telling Egyptians, that Egypt is not a country of crashes and fire. Egypt is the future. In the same year that 32 people died in Sohag, the Egyptian government is signing MOUs for a maglev that may or may not ever get built. And the gap between those two realities, between the burning trains and the levitating ones, is the truest measure of what has gone wrong. But wait, because the story has one more layer. Alongside the maglev fantasy, Egypt has also signed real, concrete deals. A $4.5 billion contract with Siemens, yes, German engineering giant Siemens, to build 660 kilometers of high-speed rail, actual high-speed rail, conventional technology, 230 km/h, connecting 60 stations from Ain Sokhna to Metro. This is not vaporware. This is a signed, funded contract with one of the most reputable infrastructure companies in the world. Construction has begun. The first phase is expected operational before 2030. So Egypt is doing two things simultaneously, dreaming of maglev and actually building high-speed rail. And this split between vision and reality, between spectacle and substance, is exactly where Egypt's railway story has always lived. So where does Egypt stand today? The conventional network, the old colonial era system, is still struggling. ENR has been partially reformed. The worst ghost employment has been cut. New rolling stock has arrived. But the institutional culture, the culture of shortcuts, of political appointments, of deferred accountability, that has not changed overnight. The Siemens high-speed rail project represents the most credible shot at genuine transformation. If delivered on time and on budget, two very large ifs in Egyptian infrastructure history, it would be a genuine revolution. For the first time, passengers could travel from Cairo to Alexandria in 38 minutes, from Cairo to the Red Sea in under an hour. For ordinary Egyptians, 103 million people who depend on this country's infrastructure every single day, that would be life-changing. The Maglev project? In 2024, it remains in MOU status. No ground has been broken. No financing has been confirmed. It may yet happen, or it may quietly disappear, as so many announced megaprojects do in this part of the world. But the conversation it has sparked is real. Engineers across Africa and the Arab world are now discussing quantum leaps in infrastructure, skipping intermediate technology the way some nations skipped landlines and went straight to smartphones. Can Egypt do that with railways? Can a country leap from steam era failures to magnetic levitation? Or does the institutional rot have to be fixed first, no matter how unglamorous that work might be? The people who died in train fires and collisions across 170 years of Egyptian railway history did not die because of bad technology. They died because of bad governance, because of corruption and neglect and political cowardice. No maglev fixes that. Only accountability does. Only transparency does. Only a genuine commitment to public safety, not as a slogan, but as a practice, does. And today, for the first time in a very long time, there are reasons to believe that Egypt is at least trying. The Siemens contract is real. The new rolling stock is real. The political will, at least on paper, appears more serious than it has been in decades. The question is whether it will be enough, and whether it will come fast enough. We started this video with a question: how does the civilization that built the pyramids end up with trains that catch fire? The answer, it turns out, is painfully human. It's not about engineering, it's not about geography. It's about the decisions made by people in power, decade after decade. Decisions that prioritize politics over safety, image over substance, short-term comfort over long-term investment. The pyramids lasted 4,500 years because the people who built them refused to compromise on their standards. Every stone placed with precision, every angle calculated, no shortcuts. Egypt's railways failed not because the technology was wrong. They failed because that same commitment to craft, to quality, to accountability was absent. Robert Stephenson built the first Egyptian railway in 1854. It was built for Britain, not Egypt. But in the 170 years since, Egypt has had every opportunity to make it truly its own, to transform a colonial tool into a national treasure. That transformation is now finally underway. Whether it culminates in a 600-kilometer maglev gliding silently above the desert, or simply in trains that arrive on time without catching fire, both would be miracles in their own way. Because the pyramids were not built in a day, and neither is a railway system worth trusting. So I'll leave you with this. If Egypt's maglev gets built, and it carries its first passengers across the desert at 600 kilometers per hour, will the story of Egypt's railways finally be a success story? Or will success only come when a mother can put her child on a train and know with absolute certainty that they will arrive safely? Think about that, and I'll see you in the next one.